Good morning. So today's topic, I was hoping to go a little light today, but in light of recent events, I kind of feel like I need to talk on a little bit of a more serious note. So, I want to talk a little bit about what happened in El Paso, as well as what happened in Ohio, and what's been happening all over the world. So, it's a little bit of a hard subject for me, but recently there have been a lot of shootings, and it's very sad, and there's a lot of things that always come up around this time, and I understand that everyone's going to feel very passionately about their stance on it, and I'm not here to tell you you're wrong or you're right or say that I know everything and everybody needs to listen to me, because I don't know everything. I know only the things that I know. And I know that's not even anywhere near the entirety of the situation. But I feel like something needs to be said about it, and I have a platform, so I might as well use it. So there's a couple of things that I wanted to touch on. One of them is thoughts and prayers, one of them is gun control, and one of them is being kind. So I'm going to start a little bit about the first one. Thoughts and prayers. So every time something like this happens, people always say thoughts and prayers, thoughts and prayers. Either my thoughts go out or my prayers go out. And lately I've seen a lot of attacks on this, saying things like thoughts and prayers are useless, and quit sending thoughts and prayers. Your God is either deaf or doesn't exist. And that hurts me a lot as a Catholic specifically, because my God does exist. It is not his fault. And the biggest reason I say this is because we are his tools and instruments, and he tries to work through us. But if you're trying to build something with a hammer and nail and they don't work right, or don't want to do what you want them to do, obviously you're not going to get things done, and something that comes out in the end isn't what you wanted. And a lot of people who are in crafts say it all the time. It's like, the material's fighting me today, and it doesn't quite come out the way they want. The same thing happens when God tries to work through us. When we resist him and we fight back his will, things can come out a little skewed. Now, when things happen halfway across the world, the only thing that I am capable of doing is saying a prayer that somebody who has the ability to do something does something. Because if something's happening and I can't do anything about it, if a boulder falls on top of somebody, I don't have the strength to pick it out. I'm not Hercules. But if 100 people get together and decide that they're going to pick it up, they might be able to move it. Or somebody who comes along who has the equipment to move it does. That boulder will move. But I alone can't. And that's the reason why I pray. I pray that somebody else can help out in this situation, that maybe I get some clarity. Maybe I can help, I just don't know how. And so I ask, how am I supposed to help? What am I supposed to do? Because in these moments, it's terrifying. It's scary. You don't know what you're supposed to do. It's hard to think about leaving the house because something bad just happened, especially something so close. And so don't be so aggressive against people who are doing what they feel they can do. Now, it's different when that's all they're doing, because, and I heard it put one time and I thought it was really great and made a lot of sense, was it's not going to help the homeless man who you passed on the street to say a prayer for him. It's going to help him to give him that extra cup of food or that extra sandwich you bought to feed him that day. If you're halfway across the world for him, you can't do that. But if you pass him on the streets, it's so much easier just to say, hey, I bought an extra sandwich. I was being a little chunkers today, and so here, take it, eat today. Might not feed him forever, but maybe he goes home and he feeds his family with it. Maybe it gives them the strength to finally do something about it. Or maybe nothing changes and he just ate that day. That's not up to you what he does. That's his decision. But you did what you could to help. So when things like this happen, thoughts and prayers are a good start, but they shouldn't be the end all. You should say, okay, I've said a prayer that hopefully more people get involved and we do something about it. Or I've said a prayer that hopefully somebody goes in and gives some people peace, helps them recover from this. And the next thing is all of the gun regulation that starts to come up again. Everybody starts having essentially a screaming match of, take all the guns away, don't take my guns away, you're killing kids, give it up, and all of these screaming matches that get absolutely nothing done. Because we've done it every single time one of these things happens. We start yelling that we need to get rid of all the guns. All of the people with guns start yelling that they will never give up their guns, and nothing changes, and it happens again, and we start all over. Now, I'm not saying I have all the answers, and I'm not saying that taking away guns is going to solve anything, or it's not going to solve anything. I don't know. I don't have the numbers, I don't have the statistics, I don't have any information that can clarify or justify either one of those statements. But what I do know is something needs to change. Something needs to happen. Either we do need to take away the guns, or we don't need to take away the guns, or we need to change the laws, we need to update the laws, we need to do something, is my point. Something needs to change, because it's been this way, and it's only getting worse. There were 2 big shootings, back to back. It used to be a very surprising thing that these happened, and suddenly they've become commonplace, because it's getting worse. And we need to figure out what the problem is, or we at least need to start taking preventative measures. A fire alarm isn't going to stop a fire, but it is going to let people know that there's something dangerous happening. Maybe we need to start there. We need to have some sort of warning system when things are going wrong that way to help save as many people as possible. And then there's so many different things that we can approach, but every time somebody tries to say something, it gets overloaded with and covered up with everybody else's screaming matches. Just today I saw a cartoon that said all of these different groups of people that people are blaming right now, pointing blame to somebody else. And pointing blame and pointing blame. I don't care who's at fault. I don't care whose fault it is. I don't care if it's my neighbor's fault, the next block over, this group's fault or that group's fault or what. It doesn't matter anymore. It doesn't matter whose fault it was. They're going to be dealt with. The shooter that was causing all of this stuff was going to get apprehended and is going to be dealt with by the law. That no longer matters. What matters is, how did they get a hold of these things? Who gave it to them? Can we prevent it? There's so many other things that matter more than which group did it, because it almost is never a group. And we like to point blame, but it's not getting us anywhere. If pointing blame is going to be the first step, then we've covered it pretty well. The next step needs to be, what are we going to do? And developing more hate towards a group for the actions of one almost never solves anything. There's been a lot of hate towards Hispanics lately, and there's been so much in the media that some people say that was what caused the El Paso shooting. I don't know. I don't want to look into it, because that's only going to hurt me, and it doesn't really matter to me in the end. What matters is what we're going to do about it. And all of these things, it's not hating on Hispanics isn't making it better. It's only distracting from the next step and making people unnecessarily afraid. And it's happened over and over throughout history for various groups of people. The Jews were being hated on until somebody took it too far. The Hispanics were hated on. The Japanese were hated on. Everybody's been the blame, the scapegoat for so many different situations until somebody takes it too far. And sometimes it doesn't go that way. Sometimes it does. The point is, it's not getting us anywhere. We need to work on that next step, whatever it's going to be. And so I looked at this comment that I saw this morning, and I said, I don't really enjoy partaking in blaming groups. And because it's not going to ever be true. If it was, a Hispanic person that did it, I'm a Hispanic person and I would never do that. So blaming all Hispanics isn't going to do anything. Oh, it was a white person that did it. Blaming all white people isn't going to do anything, because my husband would never do something like that. And he belongs to that group. It doesn't get us anywhere. The same way if you say, oh, it was the Muslims. I bet you it's not all Muslims. It might have been just one or two, or a large enough group to make a difference. But it's not all of them. And blaming an entire group isn't going to get us anywhere. So I said, I don't partake in blaming. I think that regulation needs to change, because obviously what's in place isn't keeping it out of the hands of the people who shouldn't have it. And the very first comment I got back on that was essentially yelling at me for suggesting that I take all the guns away. Nowhere in that statement did I say that we needed to do that, or banning weapons, or specific weapons. I never even said the word ban. But that was the very first comment who yelled at me about it. I never said that. I never even, because it's not going to work. We banned alcohol and we had to bring it back because people wanted it. Banning something isn't the solution. Maybe having stricter control on it. Maybe other things that I haven't even thought of. But the point was that I never even mentioned it, and that was the first comment back, yelling, "You're not going to take my guns away." I didn't say I was going to take them away. I have ideas, and I've talked with my husband about them, and we go back and forth, what might work, what might not work. But at the end of the day, we're trying to come up with a solution that maybe we can get to the right people. But we don't hate on each other for it. And one thing this person might not know is that there is a lot of guns in my house. It's not really, they're not mine, they're my husband's. And I trust him to use them responsibly. He trusts that I'm not going to go in and go crazy with them. And if I use them, I'll use them responsibly and safely. But do they know that? And I'm not saying that he shouldn't have them or he should have them. He has them. Moving on. I think that there needs to be something to be done, but if we continue to do this where we're just yelling at each other every time somebody suggests that change needs to happen, change will never happen, and this will just keep happening. Doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results is literally the definition of insanity. And I'm going to say it again, I don't have all the answers. I can give you suggestions and things that I've come up with that might help or might work, and I've talked to a few people, and some people like it, some people don't like the ideas. The point is that we need to have a conversation about what's coming next. And these screaming matches of, we need to take all of the guns away because they're hurting kids, and you're never going to touch my guns, you're never going to take my liberties and my freedoms, and that gets us nowhere. We're just burning rubber in the same place, yelling at each other that they don't have the right solutions and you're stupid. Fine. I always ask people who come at me like that and say, fine, what's your solution? What is your idea? What do you think should happen? And a lot of the times they just yell back at me, well, I'm never going to give them my gun. Great, fine, you don't want to give them up? That's great. What is your solution? That was somebody else's solution. Somebody said, maybe we should get rid of all of them. And somebody said, no, we can't do that. It's like, okay, well, what's your idea? What is the next idea? And people sometimes come up silent. Sometimes it encourages people like, okay, what is a better idea? And they start thinking about it. And that's how ideas happen. When we stop yelling at each other and we actually say, okay, that's a good question. If we don't want to get rid of all of our guns, then we need to come up with a different idea. And we work on it and we collaborate together. And I don't have all the answers because I don't know everything. But me and my husband have different perspectives on it. And so working together, we get a little bit further along because we have two different perspectives. if we added another person with a different perspective and idea, and another person, and we have this large group of people with varying perspectives who can weigh in and say, that might not work because this happened over here, let's try this. Oh, and we just keep building on this until we create an idea that might actually work. We could actually make things better. If we got this group of ideas and a group of people from different perspectives trying to work on a problem, we actually might find a solution. One of my favorite things to look at is the Reddit threads, because there have been so many things that could come out of it. Because, murders that were solved and problems that found solutions. Because what it is it's a large platform of hundreds of thousands of people who get together on a problem or a comment that says, hey, this is a problem. And a lot of people start throwing, and there's positive, move forward thinking arguments of, that's not going to work, and that's not going to work, and let's try this, and that's not good enough, and building on it and collaborating until there's a solution that everybody says, yeah, that actually might work. And that is how we find solutions to these kinds of problems, not by yelling at each other and talking down to each other. When I get on some of these comments and try to share my opinion to see if maybe somebody else can help me, and I get, oh, you're stupid, you don't know what you're talking about, you don't even know a gun, you don't even touch a gun, it's like, I'm not really going to want to reply to that, because that's not going to get me anywhere. And if I say, cool, what's your perspective on it, and they just keep yelling at me, why am I going to waste my time with that? Why am I going to continue to waste my efforts on somebody whose only interest is to yell at me and degrade me because they don't agree with my idea? My family, my in-laws, we have very different opinions and varying stances on all of these issues. I don't think less of them for not thinking the same as me. If anything, I think more of them because they can share their ideas with me, and we can talk about it, and we can see who's wrong and how to improve it, or who might be on the right track, and see if that'll work, and collaborating in a way that creates new ideas that might actually come up with solutions. My biggest thing has always been education. Guns are a problem right now, either because people are misusing them or because they're getting in the hands of the wrong people. And my biggest start is always education. Let's educate people. If people are getting hurt with these weapons because they don't know how to use them properly, let's figure out a way to do it. One of my ideas has always been getting a gun license a lot similarly to getting a vehicle license. I need a license to drive a car responsibly. To be sold a car, I need to have a driver's license. Because that makes sense. Why would we give somebody a vehicle if they can't use it properly? That's how accidents happen, when you don't know how to use something correctly. Even with a knife, if you didn't know how to hold it properly, you use it properly, you cut yourself and you can wound yourself. If you're knife throwing and you don't know how to do it properly, you can hit somebody. If you don't know how to use a gun properly, you can hurt somebody, either taking it apart or putting it together or trying to shoot something if you don't know how to aim or you're not careful when you're waving it around. That's how accidents happen. And so that's one of my ideas. Educate people. And I might not have all the answers, but if I share my side to somebody who might have more of the answer, they can share it back and we can be a little bit closer to figuring it out. And that comes to my next part, which is be kind to each other. Because a lot of the times we're trying to degrade other parties for having different ideas. And yelling at each other and fighting each other and being very, very rude and gross to each other just because we're different. That's not going to get us anywhere. If you can take a step back and actually have a conversation. A lot of the times when I talk to people who have different opinions, I don't want them to necessarily come over to my side. My purpose of having a discussion or even an argument with somebody isn't to change their mind. It's to understand their perspective and their opinion and offer what I think of it or my opinions of it to get to a better understanding. One of the things that me and my husband talked about when we were getting married was that I'm Catholic and he's not. And a lot of people, including his mother, were trying to get me to convince him to change his mind or to force him to conform to our ideas. And I said, no, that's not what I'm going to do. I'm going to share what I know and why I believe what I believe and my opinions on it and what I know and all of the education that I've gotten on it. And I'm going to try to share that with him. And I have. And I always share my beliefs or why I believe it this way. Or when he has asked questions, I try to find the answer. And if I don't have it, I say, I don't have the answer. Let me try to find it for you. And I'm not trying to change his mind. I'm not trying to make him agree with me. I'm not trying to make him different. I am trying to get him to understand my perspective and to understand why I believe it and the belief better. If he never changes his mind, it won't change us. And he's not trying to change my mind. He's not trying to convince me not to believe. He shares why he has qualms or why he's differing in an opinion, but he doesn't try to change my mind. We try to have a discussion to better understand each other's perspectives. And if we all applied that kindness and understanding when we talk about things that are such sensitive subjects like gun control, we might actually be able to find a solution, or at least better understand each other's perspectives. If you're so attached to your guns, I want to talk to you. I want to know why. I want to know what makes your brain think that way. If you're opposed to banning them, tell me what your solution is, what you think is going to be a better option if you don't think that's going to work. If you don't think that, there is a problem, explain it to me. I want to know why you're thinking that way, because I don't get it. And if we all just were a little kinder and actually tried to understand each other a little better, we might get to a solution with a lot more than just this problem, but all the problems. A little heavy topic today, but hopefully these words get to the right people or help to create a better understanding on this subject, especially during such a sensitive time. So remember, be kind to each other. Work towards a solution and not just a yelling match. Thanks for listening.